There's another video of mine about the different Englishes, and I'll leave a link for you to watch that video right here in a card and also in the description box below. But for now, let's just talk about global English. So global English is when you need to interact with native English speakers. If that's the case, then what we're going to talk about today, which is a grammatical structure, will not necessarily cause a break in communication between you and your listeners, but it will be considered an error. Okay, even though it is an error, that doesn't mean that native English speakers don't understand you. They do understand you. And as I keep mentioning in this channel, the most important thing is intelligibility, the degree to which you can communicate effectively. And in order to communicate effectively, you don't need 100% accuracy. Okay? Having said that, there are people who are interested in accuracy. So for those of you who would like to improve your English accuracy, let's look at the structure. I want that he, or I want that she, or they want that I. Okay, so that's a very common structure that non-native English speakers use, speakers of other languages. Let's look at why that is and how to use the correct structure. And stay until the end because I have a little challenge for you. Are you ready? Let's get started. If this is your first visit here, or if you've watched any previous videos of mine and seen value in the content, please click the subscribe button. By subscribing, you're really helping the channel reach more people like you, expert professionals looking to become more confident and fluent in English. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Tanya Meyer. I'm the founder of Confident English Training, operating at the intersection between effective language acquisition and use, the practice of awareness raising, and increased levels of happiness, joy, and well-being. What's not to love? Okay, back to the video. Transferring ready-made structures from your native language to English is a very typical and perfectly reasonable thing to do. Everybody does it, so you're not alone in this. And even advanced learners of English, if they are Romance speakers, if they speak Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, or French as a first language, then they are very likely to do this particular kind of transference. And when that happens, it's called, the technical term is L1 interference. L1 is first language interference. So let's look at an example of this when Romance language speakers say things like, I want that he, I want that she. Let's build a sentence here. I want that she gets the job. Okay, so that's the example. I want that she gets the job. And this is a direct translation in Spanish. Quiero que ella consiga. El trabajo consiga is being conjugated to ella, which is she. And quiero is conjugated to yo. So I don't say yo quiero, I just say quiero. And the conjugation of the verb indicates the person. In Portuguese, it would be quero que ela consiga o emprego, quero que ela consiga. So there's the bare infinitive there. I won't attempt Italian and French, but the construction is exactly the same. I want that she gets. And this is the reason why you're building constructions like this in English. But English is not a Romance language. It's a West Germanic language, and we need a different pattern to express this idea. The structure that we need in English to express this idea is subject, in this case I, and then the first verb, which is want, and then the object pronoun. So after the first verb, we need an object pronoun. And then instead of that, we need the infinitive with to. The infinitive with to. And of course, when we have the infinitive with to, and because we're talking about the second verb, not the first verb is want, the second verb is get, then that second verb will not have the same behavior as the first. The first verb needs to be conjugated according to time. We can use it in the present, in the past, in the perfect, in the continuous. But the second verb will always be infinitive with to. That means without conjugation. So this idea then, I want, now we're going to replace that. We're going to use the object pronoun. So for she, it's going to be her, right? Her is the object pronoun. So I want her, and then the infinitive with to of the second verb, get, I want her to get the job. So from I want that she gets the job, which is not correct, but it will be understood by native speakers, so don't worry about it if you don't want to correct that. But if you do, then the correct way of expressing that idea is using this formula that I've just shown you. So I want her to get the job. Comment below if this is something new to you, if this is something that you hadn't realized before, that at least with the verb want, when we have the verb want, then it's going to follow this pattern. Unless we're talking about something we want. Yes, I want some coffee. Yes, then I want and a noun. That's fine, no problem. She wants, we conjugate it if it's the first verb. But if we want somebody else to do something, then we need this pattern. Okay, so comment below if this is new to you. Okay, now that we've got the affirmative in place, what about the negative? What happens lots of times is that people just use the negative of that second verb the way they've been taught to say, to express negative ideas in English. So they'll say something like, I want that she don't get the job, or something like that. But imagine that this friend of yours, she, has applied for a job, but you know that this job that she's applied for isn't a good deal. Yes, the pay is low, the hours are long, almost no benefits. And so for her own sake, you have this desire that she doesn't get the job. So how do we express that in English? I want her to get the job is the affirmative. The negative is I want her not to get the job. So when we use the negative form in these sentences where there are two verbs, then, like I say, the first verb is going to behave the way verbs normally do. I want, I don't want. Yes, do I want? So that's fine. But this second verb, I want her not to get, then get is the second verb and it falls into the pattern that I spoke about before. Don't worry, we're going to have some practice. That's why the challenge at the end. I want her to get the job in the affirmative. And in the negative, we can say, I don't want her to get the job. Fine. So we're using the negative in the first verb. No problem. I don't want her to get the job. But we can also say, I want her not to get the job. And then the question would be, do I want her to get the job? No, I don't. Fine. Or, no, I want her not to get it. So that's an option. So the difference in meaning between I don't want her to get it, the emphasis is on me, on what I want and what I don't want. And I want her not to get it is the focus is not on me, it's on her not getting it. Of course, in this example, it's not out of malice that I don't want her to get the job, okay? I do want her to get a good job, but I know that this job isn't a particularly good job, okay? So that's why it's just an example of where the emphasis lies in these two expressions that mean pretty much the same thing. Want isn't the only verb that we use with this pattern. There are other verbs that follow this same pattern when we use the verb and then a second verb in an expression. Let me show you 15 common verbs that use this kind of pattern, and then we'll look at some examples. Okay, so here we go. The verbs advise, allow, ask, beg, cause, choose, command, convince, enable, encourage, expect, force, hire, instruct, and invite. All of these common verbs in alphabetical order from A to I use this same pattern. So why don't we look at examples? Because many times in English lessons, what happens is that you're presented with a table like this with all the other verbs that follow the same pattern as the example that we've been working on. And then that's it. You're supposed to memorize these verbs or something, but that doesn't happen. The way it happens is by actually getting these verbs and applying them to the pattern, to the formula. One by one, and making sure that you're integrating the pattern as you produce these sentences. So with this first half, let's do it together and then we'll continue. So here we go. We advise them to seek professional help. We advised them to seek professional help. Not we advise that they. You see, that's what non-English speakers might say. We advise that they seek. But the correct pattern is we advised them to seek. With allow, we can say they can be anyone, yes? Let's say the police. The police allowed him can be anyone. But let's say the suspect. The suspect is he. So the object pronoun is him. They allowed him to make a phone call. They allowed him to make a phone call. I asked them to bring some food. I asked them. Not I asked that they. I asked them to bring some food. He begged her not to leave. He begged her not to leave. So here we're using the negative for that second verb, leave. But it's the second verb with the infinitive. So he begged her not to leave. He begged her not to leave. Next we have, she caused them to laugh with her hilarious joke. She caused them to laugh. This is quite a contrived sentence. I couldn't think of somebody causing something to do something. It caused, we could use objects. Let's think about machinery failure. Then we could say something like, it caused the engine to fail. It caused the engine to fail. It caused it to fail. Then we have two it's referring to different things. It, the cause, and it, the engine, but the pattern is the same. Let's try a question with the next one. Did they choose to leave so early? Did they choose to leave so early? Okay, let's talk about an action for the next one. Her firm instruction. Her firm instruction. So that would be replaced with it, the instruction. Her firm instruction commanded them to stop shouting. Them, let's say the children. Okay, so her firm instruction commanded the children to stop shouting. It commanded them to stop shouting. So replacing the subject and the object with pronouns. It commanded them to stop shouting. He convinced her to go with him to Italy. He convinced her to go with him to Italy. The machine enabled the workers to do their job more efficiently. The machine enabled them to do their job more efficiently. The father encouraged his son not to pursue a career in music. The father encouraged the son not to pursue. So the father didn't want the son to pursue a career in music. He encouraged him not to pursue. I expected you to arrive 3 hours ago. I expected you to arrive 3 hours ago. They forced us to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. They, whoever they might be, forced us to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. You see, it's the same pattern in every sentence. We're just applying the formula to these verbs and thinking of ideas. What idea can I apply to this verb and apply the formula to it? The company hired her to investigate the case. It hired her to investigate the case. They instructed us not to move until they arrived. They instructed us not to move. So between the object pronoun and the infinitive with to is the negative not. They instructed us not to move until they arrived. So this is how it works, by creating a new neural path. This is the kind of situation where, and it's not the only one, there are many other kinds of situations, but this one in particular, if we have the habit of using that construction that we talked about before, this is a good example of where repetition can be really helpful to self-correct and to create a new path so that we remember in the future that these verbs use this pattern. So, easy, right? I'm going to put another 15 common verbs in English from J to Z up here on the screen. So the invitation is that you pause the video and create some sentences using affirmative, negative, and question forms, and put them in the comments below. If you want some feedback, I read every comment. So if you want some feedback, just ask me for feedback. But just practice creating sentences with these new verbs, all of them very common in English, using the formula subject plus verb plus object plus not if we're talking in the negative, yes, plus infinitive with to. And have fun with it. Okay, I'm really looking forward to interacting with you and seeing you in the comments below. And if you're looking to join an English training program and community that supports you along your way towards confidence and fluency in English, just look for the link in the description box below. Remember that you can also download my free guide with audio, the new edition of How to Revolutionize Your English in 8 Steps, which I will leave a link for in the description box below also. I've also filmed another video on verb patterns, which shows all the verb patterns that we use in English, and I'll leave a link for that one right here and in the description box below. Have a go, see how you get on. Let me know if you have any problems or if you experience any difficulties creating these sentences. I'd love to hear your feedback. And I'll see you in the next one. Take very good care until then. Bye for now.